Oh, hey, welcome to Palette Talk, your no-nonsense guide to becoming a better painter. Today we're going to be talking about style and why I don't really like that terminology and the use of that word to talk about what a painter does. So when we're talking about painting, we're often talking about things that are made on a canvas. What do we actually create when we're making a painting? What is the result of a painting? That's why it's kind of fun, because it's a verb as well as a noun. A painting, to make a painting. I'm painting. Anyway, when we make a painting, we end up with certain squiggles and lines on a canvas, kind of like I'm doing right now. And when we talk about style, we start to minimize the importance of the journey that takes place in order to get to a place where you start making certain types of marks. And a lot of times people that are starting out, they want to paint in a certain style. They see an artist and they say, I want to paint like that. I want to paint in that style. And that's cool. That's a great place to start. That's a great place to begin your journey. At a certain point, you're going to notice that your hand moves in a very particular way. And the things that you're creating kind of end up looking a certain way when they're done, no matter what you try to do, right? This is kind of like when you sign your name. So all of this comes into style and how we end up painting and how we end up drawing. Part of it is just naturally built into the artists themselves. The style, in that respect, is kind of the person. Think about saying to Van Gogh to those in America, imagine saying like, oh, I like that. I like his style. I like the style that he decided to paint in. And, Vincent van Gogh, he didn't really choose to paint in a certain style. That style kind of came out of him. So when we're looking at artwork, oftentimes we're looking at, what is the result of this approach to painting and what comes out of this approach to painting. So the style is the person, and in painting especially, if you're being derivative, that means if you're just kind of aping somebody else's work, it also comes off as inauthentic. So it's something that, is not going to be as intriguing. Oh, they want to paint like this. Oh, they're trying to do this. That's, again, a good place to start. But if you really want to be authentic in your voice and in your painting, you're going to kind of want to find your own way too. And style is a really surface level way of engaging in that as well. Another thing to consider is that, artists change over the years as well, and a style is something that can naturally just be, discovered and created, without the artist even necessarily knowing it completely. It just happens. So for instance, an artist like Philip Guston, he can start off making murals, these very social realistic looking murals and these sorts of things. And then he can also go through an abstract expressionist phase where he's exploring just abstraction and color field painting and all this sort of stuff. And then he can end up with where he does with these kind of cartoony figurative works as well. And all these things can combine throughout somebody's life to create a distinct way of looking throughout the years. Philip Guston's figurative work couldn't exist without his abstract expressionist work. So if he approached that situation thinking like, oh, I want to make these kind of paintings that look kind of cartoony and deal with these kinds of issues, without that abstract expressionist phase, he probably wouldn't have been able to discover that, And there's a certain depth beyond the surface interpretation of looking at things as well. So when we start thinking about style, it's not just the way you put stuff down, it's the cumulative work that you've done your entire life to create something that looks a very particular way and that hopefully resonates with other people, right? So, you might be thinking of, there's also the issue of trends, right? That certain trends become more popular, like right now, like a lot of people are using airbrush in paintings. That's kind of trendier now. So that also brings up the questions of authenticity. How authentic is somebody if they're just kind of jumping on a trend rather than spending a lot of time to figure out their voice and figure out how they work, right? And you got to identify that when you're making paintings. Are you just making something that's the latest trend, or is it something that you're really interested in and that's going to have some actual staying power in decades to come? Because paintings stay around for a long time. You know, paintings, people take care of paintings. People take care of really bad paintings. So paintings stick around for a long time. So you should also be thinking about, how's this going to be in 10 years from now? How people are going to look at this painting and what's it going to say about the world right now, or my own exploration right now, and my own trajectory as an artist, right? So you might be thinking, okay, I get what you're saying, but I don't know how to go into the studio. How do I go into the studio if I just have to find my own style, and I can't just like ape other people's stuff? And isn't art history full of people copying other people? Yes, of course it's full of that. It's full of people copying other people for all of art history. People build upon what other people have made, right? But at the same time, you can kind of follow a technique to discover your own style as well. And this really just involves what I would say is like common with novelists, is that they often, follow a very strict work regime. And I think the same is true of painting as well. If we follow painting in that same way, if you create time to make paintings every day, if you create time to think about your art and, write about it and really dig into what it is that you're making and what are your goals and why do you have these goals, but at the same time you keep on working, you're going to create an environment where, experimentation will come up and you'll be able to create your own voice, hopefully. Because that's what we want in artists. We want them to have their own voice. We like them when they're authentic. We can smell somebody who's not being authentic a million miles away. And in order to find that authenticity, to just consistently work over time. And over time, it takes a long time, you'll eventually kind of find out, where you're supposed to be and how you feel you fit in, right? So it's not that all is lost. It's like you can discover a new approach to your work just by making time for it and being open to changes and being open to possibilities that go beyond, oh, I want to draw like this, or oh, I want to paint like this. Go into the situation thinking that you might discover a new approach to painting or a new way of painting that you might not have anticipated or cared about before, right? I think that, going forward, I would create a system for yourself that allows for this experimentation, create a studio practice that allows for this sort of experimentation so you can create the work that you want to create and find your voice. And that's hard to do when you are just trying to copy somebody else. So don't just, it's good to copy other people, but copy other people and experiment and find your own way as well. Thanks a lot for watching, and if you're into this sort of thing, go to oko.academy, where you can learn more about my little art school and what I do and how I teach people and my approach to painting. Thanks a lot.